The young Pieter Julian Eymard, moved by grace, entered the beautiful family of Our Lady, the Marist Fathers, the Society of Our Lady, SM, parallel to SJ, the Society of Jesus. Great was his devotion to the Mother of God, but that same Mother of God orientated his heart towards the sun that warms the universe. His heart was in the Blessed Sacrament. It would seem that initially he had thought it would be possible to specialize in this within his own family, the Marist Fathers, but then it became clear that the intuition was becoming more precise and that it would be better to try and see if there could be a congregation founded just for this. With this in mind, he wrote to the Archbishop of Paris, laying before him what was on his heart, quite openly and with filial obedience. But when the Archbishop of Paris saw that it was yet another contemplative vocation, he thought, enough, I want my priests in this part of the world to be useful, that the people of God may be nourished. And so it was that he had decided not to encourage him at all in this pursuit. One day he had decided to pluck up courage, the young Pieter Julian Eymard, and go and visit the Archbishop himself and try to talk it through, unaware as yet that the decision had already been taken in the heart of the Archbishop not to encourage. It happened like this. The Archbishop that particular day was entertaining a person of great dignity, and because of the dignity of the personage, different to his usual practice, he did not allow his butler to guide him to the door at the end of the interview, the conversation, but himself, the Archbishop, took him to the door and bade him farewell. Just at the point, by accident, or maybe God incident, the young Pieter Julian Eymard was there, waiting to ring the bell and come in. Oh, it's yourself. Well, actually, I have already decided that I need people for the active life, if they are priests, and not more contemplative vocations in this archdiocese. Well, that's precisely what I wanted, Your Grace. And that was how it started. He was able to open his heart, eyeball to eyeball, mouth to mouth, and face to face, and say far more than what was in the simple letter, and to explain how the devotion and the love and the adoration given to the Lord of Hosts in the Blessed Sacrament would déborde, would actually be abundant and overflow towards the people of God. And so it satisfied the Archbishop, who then gave one almighty nod, which brought into being the Blessed Sacrament Fathers as we know them. In student days, I would delight in wandering into the church which belongs to them. I believe it's San Claudio. It's the one on the right as one goes into the Piazza San Silvestro. And there, the first thing that one sees is a magnificent monstrance way up, suspended almost in the air. It's on the side above the high altar, on the apse side of the church, as one is entering, drawing everyone's attention. And there it is, adored, with angels indicating their adoration too. And the body of the saint is there as well, in the same chapel, resting. And the story is told that in his last days he wanted so much to be close to the Lord that he made it possible that when he was there in his room until he died, the sick bed that he had, there was a niche, a little opening towards the Blessed Sacrament, and he was able to adore even from his deathbed. And so it was that unto the end he loved Jesus a lot. It was a spirituality then of letting the Lord be Lord and the rest being allowed to follow. Not programming first, but adoring first, and listening first to what the Lord wanted. At the age of 12, this young boy was already making night adoration in his home from 11 to midnight on Thursday, thus fulfilling the Sacred Heart's request to St Margaret Mary and exemplifying the truth that night adoration in the home leads to holy hours in church. By the way, there's no excuse. We can always find a holy hour if we can't get it to the church itself. We can unite ourselves mentally to the Blessed Sacrament. God is beyond time and geography. We forget that. It's intentionality that enters into it there. The Lord accepts it when we do what is possible. It's far better than creating an excuse, I can't get there, therefore I'll watch another tabernacle, the goggle box. It'll do me far more good. So, Peter Julian's mother, we are told, was so edified when she thus discovered her boy in adoration that she did not have the heart to scold or disturb him. It was devotion to the Sacred Heart that saved me, Father Eymard would say in later years. Oh, how much youngsters and grown-ups nowadays need the devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus to be saved from the contagion of sin, to be rescued from the indifference and mediocrity of our times, and to be set on fire with love of God and of souls, notice. Like St Pius X after him, Father Eymard regretted the practice of those who, upon entering a church, go and kneel in front of a statue of the Sacred Heart, instead of concentrating their prayer full attention on the tabernacle, where he is present in person. And he would exhort in letters and sermons, find the Sacred Heart where it is, living, all good and all merciful in the Eucharist. Unfortunately, that divine loving heart is not known and loved, even by many devout people, who play at any number of little devotions, good in themselves, but neglect the one devotion which ought to be the life and the end of all the others, the heart of Jesus that gave us Calvary and the Eucharist. A number of years ago, when still in the monastery in Italy, I remember on the feast of St Rita going to give Holy Communion to a dear elderly parishioner. And as is the custom in Italy, I took, for that feast, a blessed rose of St Rita. I leave it to your imagination to think which of the two, the rose or the host, was meet for devotion. I hardly exaggerate. And so it is that popular devotion at times can be there and must not be extinguished, but might actually in some way be sharpened. A little teaching, a little example, a word here, a word there. The Lord is so humble that he does not often oblige us to think by performing a miracle, but sometimes he does. And as regards miracles of this nature, one of the happiest that we have in our time is precisely the revelation of the Sacred Heart itself in Venezuela, when the double miracle of the bleeding host became that of the bleeding and burning host, caught on camera by Daniel Samford. It's there on YouTube, and one sees the burning furnace of the love of our God. From the host wants us just to be there and love him, and let the rest wait. Domine